Good evening. I'm audible, I'm visible. Yes, okay, perfect. Yes, I am. I can see myself there. Okay, great. Good evening, good evening. I'm good. Before that, we had seen American Revolution and its cause, significance. Then we goes to French Revolution. Yes, we go to French Revolution now. Cause I've already discussed with you yesterday. I have to discuss with you a story and thereafter significance, and then we talk about unification of Germany. Italy won't be possible today, but unification of Germany is easy, straightforward, can be done today. So maybe 1 hour, 1.5 hours is this, and 1.5 hours is unification of Germany. Good evening. We'll give it 2-3 minutes. Will we be studying Mussolini tomorrow? Amrit, what is the time period of Mussolini? Can I send some questions? See, Pratyaksh, you have to send it to IS Live. That comes to me through that channel. That is the right way to do it. So Europeans explored New World. Why Americans didn't explore new countries? Because they didn't have the technology to cross the Atlantic. Mussolini is what period? Mussolini is, when did he rise? When did fascism rise? Amrit. Not 1904. Where to send answers? iaslive@byju's.com. They will create a ticket, take 4 to 5 days to correct your answers. So Amrit, we are right now in 1700s. Second World War is the 8th or 9th module. Mussolini, Hitler is going to come later. First, we have to cover First World War, then Second World War. Context is going to be Mussolini. Laya, what you do actually is that I tell you a lot of things. What you do is that you take cause and significance and note it down somewhere if you want to make notes in that regard. I am not asking you to make what we call as running notes, which is when I'm teaching you, you're making running notes. No, we will rather, what you do is that you concentrate in class as a form of revision, note down the points in your own language. That will help you. We'll start French Revolution, Napoleon. Napoleon is linked to the other story also, which is unification of Germany. We'll talk about that. Perfect, Dhanraj. Nothing better. Yes, what I am writing on the screen is already enough. That is totally your call if you want to note them down or not. Totally your call. I'll give it a minute, then we start. 5 we start. Good evening. Manshu, as of right now, no. Good evening. See, history optional, world history is a very different cup of tea, because there you have paper 2 in which the half of the paper is is world history. If you're covering history optional world history, then this is automatically going to get covered. So the bigger set is world history optional, and then this is a smaller set. This will not suffice for optional, but optional will suffice for this. Okay. So on Tuesday, or rather Wednesday, what we did was that we discussed the French Revolution causes, and if we divided the causes, what is Renaissance? Cultural revolution, humanism starts, Greek and Roman knowledge comes back. We discussed two parts to it: long-term causes and short-term or immediate causes. Just to refresh our memory, the long-term causes were nothing but the problem with the political setup, which is that it was non-representative. Thereafter, the issues in society, which was socially discriminatory towards the third estate. And thereafter, the bigger issue, which was economic, which is related to the bankruptcy of the French state itself and administrative corruption. Add all of it, you get long-term systemic issues. Famines are happening, bread riots are happening, people are having issues in understanding how to make their life work and even find a loaf of bread in that regard. Then we saw two short-term causes, very straightforward: enlightenment, which changed the mindset of the people, also a reason for the American Revolution. And the next being the American Revolution itself, because the American War of Independence is going to create a fiscal crisis. So, very simply, when we talk about the French state of France, it was funding the American War of Independence. And the point being is that between 1776 to 1783, a lot of money was poured into no Santosh, was poured into the American sector, and that will lead to the French more or less becoming bankrupted. And this is where our story starts. It's not the bankruptcy, it is a response to the fiscal crisis. So, because of the French support to the American War of Independence, there's a fiscal crisis, and that fiscal crisis is going to trigger the French Revolution. Now, the point is how, and herein lies the story. So, if we are clear with regards to this French Revolution, long term, short term, and the role of the American Revolution, I would like to tell you a story which is called the French Revolution itself. Everybody is clear with regards to American Revolution, the concept of world history itself, and what the discussion we had yesterday, which is basically the causes of the French Revolution. The enemy of a common enemy is the concept that France wanted America to be gone. That would weaken the British Empire, but it did not understand the concept that the English had India, which is already a very big asset to it. Now, what I want you to do right now, is that you sit back, relax, don't have to write anything, don't have to do anything, just have to listen to the story of what happened between 1788, to be very precise, 1785 to 19, or rather not 19, but 1815. This is a story I need to tell you, and that is nothing but the French Revolution and Napoleon for you. So, very simply, good evening to all of you. Don't have to write anything down, and let's hear the story. As I said, in the examination, they can't ask you this story. That you will automatically realize by the time I will tell you the story. See, to be very precise, 250 words and 150 words you have to write. And let's be very clear, I'm not making this up. The point is, they can't ask you the whole story within 250 words. There is nobody, not even me, who can write the whole French story or the French Revolution, which is the course of the revolution, in 250 words. That is humanly impossible. Then you will be telling them a random story in that regard. The cause is something which is of interest to you. the significance is something of interest to you, not the course. This is going to be true for most of the modules. That is going to be true for most of the modules. How many pages is 250 or 150? It matters on your handwriting. It could be 1 page, it could be 2 pages. It's on how big you write. The point is, most of the modules, be it American Revolution, be it French Revolution, be it unification of Germany, be it the Industrial Revolution, be it World War I, be it World War II, course is always off the table because of the word limit which has been imposed by the UPSC on themselves. So if we are clear with regards to why we don't know how does the American War of Independence pan out, is of no purpose to you. Not even history optional student has to know that. You don't have to know the battles. The Americans won and they got independence. The conclusion is important for you, not the story. That is of no purpose to you already. American Revolution is related to the French Revolution, which I'm going to discuss with you. So if you are, that restlessness is gone, can I start the story? Because you have to pay attention, but you don't have to learn this. In the process of the whole story, there will be certain moments which I will tell you which are important and have implications for you generally. Is class started late? No. You came late, Ambesh. We have started the class on time. Okay. Now, let's talk about France. So, the Americans were being funded by the French. The French are left, right, and center sending money to the Americans, money, weapons, army, guns. And when they won the independence also, they got a big statue, which would not have been very, very cheap at that point of time, the Statue of Liberty at New York. Now, when Louis XVI, who is the main protagonist here, when Louis XVI, who is the monarch or the king of France, he started to fund the American Revolution, it is believed that in 1770s, the French had close to 110 million francs. Francs is their currency. 110 million francs as a form of what we call as excess, a surplus of 110 million. On the other hand, by the time they come to 1780, they were in debt of, which is negative 50 to 60 million francs. So these fools had spent 1110, which is rather 110 million francs, and 50 to 60 million above that. And this was all debt. This was all debt. Again, don't have to learn this. Now, the French finance minister at this point of time is a person called Necker. Jacques Necker. Francs, livre, both have their different connotations. Livre is also used, francs is also used. Now, the slang is franc, livre is the official currency. Now, Necker goes to Louis XVI. And in 1780-82, he tells Louis XVI that there's a problem. So Louis XVI says, tell me. He says that we are in a deficit of close to 100 million francs. So Louis XVI says, if I remember well, you told me we had a reserve or a surplus. He said, sir, we spent it on the Americans and now there's a fiscal crisis. So as it happens in Indian politics also, Necker was removed. He said, ab kyo bata rahe? Why are you telling me now that we have spent 60 million francs over and above what we needed to? What's the point? So Necker is replaced by a person called Calon. Don't have to learn his name again. Calon. Now, Calon comes at a moment when France is in a fiscal crisis. He can't do what Necker did, which is to basically tell the French emperor that nothing can be done. So Calon does one thing. See, to come out of a deficit, you need to increase your receipts, which is income. First, second, and third estate is paying. First, second, and third estate, out of these three, only third estate is paying taxes. What would be the easiest way out? What would be the easiest way out? Tax everyone. Tax first and second also. Get a lot of money and then stop that tax. Very good. Calon would be very proud of you. Exactly what Calon also thought. Calon, he said, let me do one thing. He said, I am not going to call the estate general. That's too big a body itself, since 1612 hasn't even met. He called what is called the Assembly of Notables. And basically, the first, second, and third estate send their notable members, 2, 3, 2, 3, 5, 6, maximum 10, 10, 15 people. And in the Assembly of Notables, which convened around 1785, Calon proposes that first, second estate, little bit of tax. Once we are out of this crisis, I'll remove the tax. Very reasonable solution. Calon said, let's tag the first and second estate. Third estate, we cannot take more. So rather, let's tax first and second. And once I am out of this deficit, I will remove that tax. Now the first and second estate representatives stood up and said, we don't care about France. We don't care about anything. How can you tax me? We will not pay tax. Do hell with France. We won't pay tax only. You do what you want to do. France is in debt. That is not my problem. I didn't say to go and fund the Americans. Don't care. Don't care. And this is called very ominously the aristocratic rebellion. The aristocratic rebellion. The aristocrats said, no, 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 no. No tax, tax, tax. No, tax. Tax the third estate. We don't care. Take their blood. We don't care. Now Calon goes back to Louis XVI. And Louis XVI says, what was your solution? He said, my solution was tax the first and second estate. He said, come here. Where did this come from? Have you lost your mind that you are saying that you will tax the first and second estate? And as it happens, Calon was also removed. That this man has lost his mind. He is asking the first and second estate. Now, first and second estate are under rebellion. So the third estate gets a little bit suspicious. And now the person who actually triggered the French Revolution and was the one who tried to find a solution is the replacement of Calon, and his name is Brigny. Brigny was the third finance minister in 3 years. And Brigny comes up with a solution. Brigny obviously can't do what Calon did, the easiest, tax the first and second estate. Now Brigny needs to find a solution somehow. The solution he comes up with is, let's do one thing. Let's convene the estate general. Let's do this drama called estate general. And when the estate general will convene, we'll tax the third estate more. And it will be win-win situation for everyone. So his solution was convene the Estate General. You don't have to know the years till I tell you the year. Convene the Estate General. Now the last time the Estate General met was in 1612. Now he's calling the Estate General in 1789. What has changed in between these two things? What has changed in between these two things? Very good. Population has increased, enlightenment has happened, and the American Revolution has also happened. So very simply, between this period, people have become more radical. They are talking about the Enlightenment ideas. They are talking about democracy. They are talking about the American Revolution. They know what is economic nationalism. Simply, the people of 1789 are frustrated. They are angry, and now they were not ready for this type of drama. So Brigney basically did not realize that France had changed. Now, when it came to convening the Estate General, we already know that all three estates are going to come. And what happens is that you have close to 100 here, 100 here, and 900 here. But what is the flaw in this system? The number of representatives are 100, 100, and 900. But what is the flaw in this system? Very good. The flaw is that each gets one vote. Each estate gets one vote, and that is going to be 900 people one vote, 100 people also one vote, 100 people also one vote. It's the equal weightage, but in a way disproportionate democratic, or if you want to call disproportionate weightage of the votes itself. Now the third estate now starts to think about this concept that, okay, we are going to convene. We already know that there's a fiscal crisis, and we know the story, what is going to happen. The first and second estate is going to say tax the third estate, and the story is going to end. So what happened was that the third estate approached Louis the 16th. When they approached Louis the 16th, they said to Louis the 16th that, see, this system is unfair. We have 900 people and we always get one vote. What we want from you is, give us one more vote. Give us one more vote so that we can balance the first and second estate. If 1% of population can get 1% population can get 1, 98% can get 2 at least. Not a very unreasonable demand that was. So Louis XVI said, you have told me beforehand. I'll do one thing. I'll increase this number to 1100. I'll increase this number to 1100. 1100 representatives I give you. And then he became silent. And when the people asked him, the third estate, okay, 1100 and still one vote. Then he said, no, something came up. Somebody is very important has come. I have to leave. That standard, what you do with your relatives. A phone call came to him that I have to leave. He didn't answer this question. He didn't answer this question. He very simply said that everybody is dismissed. You need to excuse me. Very important thing I need to do. Has to do nothing. Useless emperor, nothing to do. But he didn't want to answer this question. So now the representatives realize that it is still one vote. It is still one vote. That 1100 is a fake number just to increase representatives. But in a way, within the Estate General, our power doesn't change. So now this third estate starts to think, as the people now start to talk about this, that how it is an unequitable, it's a discriminatory system. And they all now take a conviction, or the 1100 representatives say that when the estate general is going to happen, we will not allow them to vote, and in a way we will disrupt the estate general. Standard, we do it, we throw chairs in parliament, we throw chairs in legislative assembly. Standard thing, we will not let anything pass. So they were like, we'll go there, we will shout, and we will not allow anything to be done. Standard opposition target. Now what happens is that on the day of the estate general, when the third estate people wanted to enter into the most celebrated palace and the house of Louis XVI from the Bourbon dynasty, the Palace of Versailles, Versailles, whatever you want to call it. In the Palace of Versailles, what they do is that they lock the gates of the Palace of Versailles. The first and second estate representatives, they lock the gates of the Palace of Versailles. So what the third estate people do, what the third estate does is that they go to the tennis court, which is next to the palace itself, indoor tennis court, France Emperor. They go to the tennis court of the emperor, of the palace, and take an oath, which is called the tennis court oath. And in the tennis court oath, they say, we, the third estate, today change our name to the National Assembly, and we will not leave the premises of this tennis court until and unless we come up with a new constitution of France, which represents the ideas of the Enlightenment. So now you see how the American Revolution in a way triggered the French Revolution. It is the crisis which was created by the American Revolution, which Necker-Callot was not able to manage, and Bruni did the foolishness of convening a body which was now too dangerous to convene. And the third estate, when denied access to the Versailles Palace, they now become frustrated, and in the last straw, they become, or they change their name. They say, we are not the third estate now, we are the National Assembly, and we will write the Constitution of France and then only leave this building itself in 1789. In 1789. Anybody has any issue in this story till this point? No? The issue of the third estate is that they have representatives very big, but they only have one vote in the estate general. Standard thing, estate general was a representative body which was already there. All three estates used to meet. Though 98% of the population was there, only had one vote. That was the issue of their basic voting system. Again, if you're asking me about the voting system, means that you're not listening to me yesterday. Very simply, in the estate general, the problem is that everybody gets the exact number of 1, 1, and 1. This is what we discussed yesterday. No representative body. They can increase their representatives, but the problem is that the one vote is there. I can very simply say that all girls or all women and all men in class have 1 and 1 vote. So would it really matter how many men and women are there? No, I'm coming to that, Sakshi. No, so that is the basic concept. Third estate, first estate, third estate, or second estate, doesn't really matter how many people are they representing. They only get one vote. They only get one vote. Now the point is, as soon as they are now becoming radical, and the first and second estate get to know about the fact that they will disrupt the estate general, the tennis court is locked. And rather, the treaty of not treaty, but the Palace of Versailles is locked, and that in turn will lead them to go to the tennis court, and tennis court oath will be taken that we will now call ourselves National Assembly and we will write the Constitution of France. Anybody has any issue here? How representatives decide their vote? There's no concept of decision. That is the monarch who is going to decide. No, Ankita. Okay. Tennis court oath. Okay. First, second. Did they try to remove? Which I'm coming to. Okay. Did they rebel against them? No, that I'm coming to. Wait. There's a story. I'm asking you what story I've told you till this point. Does it make sense or not? Don't try to write the French Revolution history in front of me. Don't try to do that. I'll tell you what happened rather than you telling me what happened. So, very simply, anybody has any issue till this point? Can I move forward? Yes or no? Simple, straightforward point. Carlo was not able to do it. Brini did a blunder, and now tennis court oath has been taken. Okay. Now, obviously, the first and second estate would not like the fact that along with Louis XVI, that there's somebody sitting in front of them in the tennis court and saying, we will write a new constitution. We will write a new constitution. So now on the streets of France, people got to know that there's a new body called the National Assembly that is going to write a new constitution of France in which everybody is going to be equal. Very, very radical idea. So the people became very hopeful. But the people could see that very simply the army had now started to move around. So Louis XVI had now started to, in a way, mobilize the forces. You guess what was the purpose of that mobilization? Yes, which is to break the National Assembly, kill, threaten, or somehow make sure that the third estate or the National Assembly is broken. National Assembly is broken. Standard point. Now the people could see that. The people realized that the purpose is to break the National Assembly, which is doing something for us. So now the people start to squabble around and look for arms because they said, we will protect. The people said, we will protect the National Assembly. We will protect the National Assembly. And in the process of looking for arms, one person says, let's do one thing. Let's go to Bastille. Bastille is the armory jail of Paris or of France. It is the Tihar jail of France. It is the biggest jail, but also has arms in it. And this moment on 14th July 1789 is called the storming of the Bastille. And in the Bastille jail armory, what is going to happen is that the Bastille will be broken. The Bastille will be broken. People will enter. They will free everybody who is there as a person who has been prosecuted for something. They will take the arms, and now they will go and stand behind and in front of the National Assembly and say, we will not allow for anybody to break the National Assembly. The body which was created on this day was called the National Guard. It's called the National Guard. And this day till today is called the Bastille Day. Now, why am I emphasizing on this day? Because this time our Prime Minister was invited to be part of the Bastille Day. The National Day, the Bastille Day of France. The story is behind is this, which is that very simply the concept of protecting the National Assembly, and the day on which the National Guard, which till today exists, the National Guard, which is going to save the National Assembly from Louis XVI. Now, with the National Guard getting created and the Bastille being broken, now the first and second estate had no other option, with the people so angry, was to join the process of constitution making. Now, what has happened till this point? I'm recapping the story. American Revolution triggers the fiscal crisis in France. Calon's solution leads to aristocratic revolt. Briny's basic concept of calling the Estate General leads to the formation of the National Assembly. National Assembly is now writing the constitution, and the National Guard in Bastille, the storming of the Bastille, now tells France that this is a very serious moment, that the French Revolution has begun. The storming of Bastille, the formation of the what we call as the National Assembly, is considered the moment in which the French Revolution has started. Now people want change. Anybody, any issue? I'm not flow chart in the end. The story is very long. Just wait till this point. Anybody has any issue? Very straightforward story. Don't even have to learn it. Just have to understand and enjoy it with me. That's it. Because now the story is going to become very interesting. The National Guard is not the merger of the assembly, is a group of people who said that we will protect the National Assembly. Okay. No issues. Everything is clear. Perfect. Nothing better. Now tell me one thing. Very genuine question I'm going to ask you. There are bread riots in my country. There's a proper issue of not getting food, economic crisis. So writing a constitution is going to change that? People's army, yes, we want to call it like. No? The point is, writing a constitution automatically does not take away the economic crisis. And the biggest issue is, constitution writing is not a joke. People thought that they will start on Wednesday and by Friday they'll finish writing the constitution itself. But the problem was that it was taking time. So now between July and August of 1789, bread riots again start. People are again hungry. Issues still remain. National Assembly is still writing the constitution. And now people are becoming impatient. And in order to quench or to suppress the impatience of the people, or to find a solution for their eagerness, the National Assembly, in what is called the August Decree, 26th August, very important document is released. That document which is released is called the Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen. Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen. It is what it is. It is man only, and it is only an active citizen who pays taxes. So it is still not very universal, but that's not our problem. Now, this August Decree, this Declaration of Right of Man and Citizen, why is it important for you? Because in the history of the world, this document is the mother of all constitutions. any constitution in the world, except for the American Constitution, which was written before it, after 1789, and even our constitution today, has all the elements which were introduced in the Declaration of Right of Man and Citizen. And we will look at the provisions, and you will realize why am I saying it is such an important degree. See, the Declaration of Right of Man and of the Citizen says, now these are the clauses of the declaration, and this was to basically make everybody understand that things are changing in France. First, again, don't have to learn the provisions. Man is invested with some natural rights which he acquires by birth, such as right of individual security, right to freedom, right to equality, right to property. Law is the expression of common will, and everyone is equal before the law. Nobody should be arrested unlawfully without a judicial order. The freedom of speech and press is guaranteed, and the security of public rights is the duty of the state. Sovereignty was vested in the nation instead of the state or the parliament. Now, when I am telling you these provisions, does it ring a bell? Where have you seen these different concepts? Right to freedom, right to equality, right to equal representation, equality before law, what we call as preventive detention, right to speech, right to press. And if I go a step further, you see, all people have the right to acquire government ranks according to merit. Article 1516. Private property is an inviolable, unbreachable right. Nobody will be deprived of it. Initially, we also had right to property is fundamental right, later removed. All are free to diffuse religious or religion and thoughts, provided they do not violate the limits prescribed by law. The concept of reasonable restrictions. Freedom lies in those activities that do not harm others. All officers of the states are accountable to the public. To the public. So, if you look at it, any constitution in the world today, isn't it based on the basic principles of the Declaration of Right of Man and Citizen? So, very simply, in the haste of making the people understand that yes, we are doing something, they produce a very significant document. Which also becomes the preamble of the 1791 Constitution, which they produced. This is the first constitution which they make. And what they do is that they change the name. They change the name from National Assembly to Legislative Assembly, and very simply, France now becomes a constitutional monarchy with one house of legislature, with Louis XVI as the king, and he is bound by the powers of the Legislative Assembly, much like the British Parliament. This is the first constitution which they write. So the process of writing the first constitution is the French Revolution starting once Brigney calls the Estates General, Tennis Court Oath, and Declaration of Right of Man and Citizen, in turn leading to the 1791 Constitution, which makes France a what we call as constitutional monarchy. And Louis XVI, who obviously would not be very thrilled of all of this, had no other option but to sign this document, because if he doesn't, he'll be dead. So France finally has produced its first constitution, which is called 1791 Constitution, and it has now become a constitutional monarchy. Anybody, any issue till this point? When they were writing constitution, who was solving economic crisis? No one. Still the crisis is still there. I'll tell you how monarchy, because Louis XVI is still there. Constitutional monarchy, British model, exact British model. Come on, have to be more vocal. Please tell me, can I take the story forward? Because the story is not over. They will make it a hobby to write constitutions. 4 more constitutions to go, but it will become easier and easier as we go on. Okay. Yes, sir. Very good. Now the point is, there are 2 impacts of this. One, that the Legislative Assembly gets divided into 2 factions. One who want a republic, which is like India, a president and a prime minister like America, and one who want to go with constitutional monarchy only. Basically, one who still believe in Louis XVI and one who did not believe in Louis XVI. The faction which did not believe in Louis XVI, then they said that monarchy should be abolished, is a body which you also know very closely because of Tipu Sultan, the Jacobians. The Jacobians, headed by a person called Maximilien Robespierre. Maximilien Robespierre and his small political party, in a way, called the Jacobians, believed that the revolution should not stop here. The revolution should not stop here because Louis XVI is the part of the problem itself. But they were opposed by a faction which still believed in the king, in a way, the loyalists, and their name is the Girondinists, or what we call as the Girondinists or Girodians. Girodians and the Jacobians are 2 parts. And in the National Assembly, or rather in the Legislative Assembly, the Jacobians sat on the left-hand side of the house and the Girondinists sat on the right-hand side. And therein lies the genesis of left and right party. A left party is radical. It wants change, quick change. A right party is conservative, orthodox, does not want change. So the concept of left and right comes from here. The Jacobians are radicals, the Girondinists are conservative, loyalists. They don't want the constitutional monarchy to be gone. But as of right now, the Legislative Assembly, the majority is with the Girondinists. But the Jacobians are eager. They are just waiting that somehow the neck of the king comes in their hand and they would basically kill the king. So this is the first impact. Which is that they write a constitution, but they get divided over the issue of Louis XVI. Now tell me one thing. If you are Louis XVI, would you like all of this mess which is created? You have forced to sign this document itself, power taken away. I was sitting and having wine and now I have to answer to the people. Not at all. So now Louis XVI approaches the king of Austria and Prussia, and he says that both of you are sleeping. Both of you are sleeping, but the French Revolution is coming to your country also. If France will become a constitutional monarchy, you think that your people are not going to ask for the same thing. So now what Louis XVI says to Austria and Prussia is, attack France, remove this legislative assembly, and give back power to me, because if you don't give back power to me, this is going to be your fate also later. So this traitor literally invites Austria and Prussia to do something about the French Revolution. To do something about the French Revolution. Now what happens is that Austria plus Prussia now start to mobilize their armies. Now the simple point is, the Jacobians say that we should not get provoked. We should not get provoked. We should not go into a war. But the Girondinists foolishly, before Austria and Prussia could attack, they said, you will fight with us, we will fight with you. Tu kya ladega? We will fight with you. And in 1792, they will declare war against Austria and Prussia. And this will be called the Revolutionary Wars. Now, you all are very budding economists, no less than Raghu Ram Rajan. Is war good for the economy? So, they have not solved the main issue. They have still the fiscal crisis. They still have bread crisis. And now these fools are fighting with their neighbors. And now everything needs to be mobilized towards the war. We should be thankful to our Constituent Assembly. Literally be at their feet. It's very, very easy to criticize the Indian Constitution. But this is what happens when you don't have conviction behind the Constitution. These fools are not understanding that only if you stabilize France, that actually the proper issues are going to get solved. Rather than doing that, they are now fighting a war also. They are now fighting an unnecessary war. Literally unnecessary war. Though Louis XVI was at fault here because he instigated Austria and Prussia that attack. If you will not attack, you will go away. Jacobians were never in favor of the war, and they saw something fishy. That dal mein kuch kala hai. That there is something in this surprise action of Austria and Prussia, that they literally started to mobilize their army itself. Now, till this point, everybody is with me. Two impacts: division of parties on the issue of the king and the war itself. No rocket science. Again, I think by this time you would have realized that nobody can write this story in 250 words. That is why I don't care if you know the details, or you should not even care about the details, because nobody is going to write this story in 250 words. It's already been, 45 minutes. I've reached halfway point. Who is the traitor? Vivek, wake up. It is Louis XVI. Now, whilst all of this is happening, Louis XVI moved from, or rather tried to escape to Austria. So he took a carriage. By France at war, we assume loyalists are more powerful. More loyalists were the bigger faction in the National Assembly as of right now. It is Austria, Prussia versus France. France led by the Girondinists. Now the king, the constitutional monarch, now not very thrilled by the French Revolution, tries to flee France. But at the border, somebody sees him and says, "मैंने कहीं देखा है." And basically, he's caught at the border of France, that you are Louis XVI and you are trying to leave the country. Now, as soon as that happens, people become even more suspicious of Louis XVI. Whilst the war has been declared, he does one more thing. He says, Paris is too cold. I feel cold. I want to go to Tuileries. Tuileries is his summer palace. Tuileries is his summer palace. He wanted to cross over into Austria so that he could join the Austrian forces and then attack France and take back power. So he said, too cold in France, too cold in Paris. I want to go to Tuileries. Tuileries is warmer. I will like it there. My wife will like it there. So very suspiciously, again moves from the Palace of Versailles to Tuileries. And whilst all of this is happening, the Jacobians are searching for questions and answers. Why is that Austrian Prussia attacked us? And by chance, Maximilian Robespierre finds a link wherein Louis XVI had sent a message to Austrian Prussia. And now the women, because men were fighting the war at this point of time, the women played a very important role, and they do what is called the storming of the Tuileries. The storming of the Tuileries. Tuileries is nothing but Robespierre. Robespierre is he's going to come, don't worry. Robespierre is the leader of the Jacobians. Now Tuileries is the place where the palace was. Storming of Tuileries, women go grab Louis XVI by the collar, and they basically bring him to France, bring him to Paris. And now Louis XVI is put on trial for treason. And whilst all of this is happening, the Jacobians say, to hell with the National Assembly, to hell with the Legislative Assembly. We will find our new body, which is called the National Convention. And we will now prosecute and basically interrogate Louis XVI for his role in this war. And as suspected, Louis XVI will be found guilty. And in the main square near the Notre Dame, Louis XVI will be executed via the guillotine. Guillotine is this. Before you ask me what is a guillotine, Louis XVI's fat head will be put here, and this is going to fall from the top. Not the guillotine of the Indian Parliament, but this is the real guillotine. The word guillotine comes from here. Guillotine is end of all discussion. Let us vote. That is coming from here itself. And Louis XVI and his wife Marie Antoinette will be executed. And now the National Convention. One second. Now the National Convention is going to write another constitution in 1793, which is called the First Republic Constitution. They will say enough is enough, no monarch, and France in 1793 will become a republic. Easy story. French Revolution, 1791 Constitution, constitutional monarchy. Monarch becomes over smart, gets executed by 1793. Write a new constitution called the First Republic Constitution, 1793. Now the legislative body is called National Convention, controlled by the Jacobians. And the Jacobians is headed by a person called Maximilian Robespierre. Now, anybody has any issue till this point? I will give you a summary. I will give you a flowchart. I will give you a timeline. Was Louis XVI guillotined? Yes, he was. Sir, was controlling army? I don't know what you mean to say that. Who was controlling the army? The National Convention. Legislative Assembly was now replaced by National Convention. Yes, perfect. Perfect. Can I now move to the next two constitutions? Very easy, very straightforward. You will see the level of what we literally call tanda, which is going to happen in France. They stopped constitution writing in between, introduced Declaration of Rights, then write a constitution, and then again wrote a constitution. Second constitution has come through. Okay. National Convention is controlled by the Jacobians. Now I'll tell you what they will do about the Girondinists. Don't worry. Left and right means left is radical, right is conservative. Standard concept, Shivani. Okay. If it is not relevant for the examination, why are we learning this? Himanshu, very good question. First and foremost thing, I'm not asking you to learn this. Second is, I can't say French Revolution started, Napoleon came. Can I do that? Himanshu, you tell me. 1789, French Revolution started, then Napoleon came in 1802. This is not how I can teach. So I have to, you like it or don't like it, tell you this story. I told you bring popcorn. It's a very interesting story. I'm not asking you to learn this. That ways I can just tell you cause, significance of all events. Let's finish world history in one class. This is why French Revolution happened. This is why First World War happened. This is why Second World War happened. This is the significance of Second World War. Iron Curtain, the USA won. That is why capitalism persisted. Hitler came, went, died, committed suicide. Mussolini came, died. So, okay, pura world history is done. It's very easy for you to say that. I can't gloss over this area. Right? Can I come back to the story? Yes? Okay. Now, see, nobody does this. I know how people teach world history. See, half of the people don't know the story. Half of the people know the story in the wrong context. So when I've been doing this for 12 years, I will make sure that you also go through the torture of knowing the story. Why not? Okay. Yes, you should have a rough idea of the course. UPSC can do anything, anytime. As it is, you should know about French history. Why not? Okay. Now, what should have been the radical, or rather, what should have been the logical thing which should have been done? New constitution has been written. What is the logical thing which a sane person will do? You tell. You will go for good implementation. Very good word Pratyaksh uses, which is good implementation. 1791 was not able to, or was not applied in a good way. So we should now have political stability and apply the constitution in a way which is good. Very good. Very good. Very good. The future of India is in right hands. You know how to stabilize the economy and polity. But what the French do is that Maximilian Robespierre says that let's do one thing. Wait. Let's pause everything. लिख लिया constitution, मजा आया, अच्छा लगा. It felt nice. We wrote a constitution. Very good. Now, let's do one thing. Let's clean the society all of everyone who believed in the king. I have killed the king. Now I want to kill everybody who believed in the king. So Robespierre, rather than implementing the Republican Constitution, now says, wait. We will make two bodies. Committee of General Safety and Committee of Public Safety, and they never did safe anything, rather never did anything safely. And he said, I will be the one with General Safety. Let's do one thing. Let's take Girondinists and slice them. Every Girondinist is killed. If you had by chance said that I like the emperor, bring cut. In the square, it is believed, in the guillotine market of France, there was an upturn because everybody wanted a guillotine. Left, right, and center, everybody is killed. This is very ominously called in the French history Reign of Terror, 1793, 94, 95. For 1 year, now Maximilien Robespierre, rather than actually becoming a good administrator, now becomes a dictator. So basically, they have derailed the whole concept. The whole constitution has got derailed. The whole concept has got derailed. He's not even prime minister or president. He's nothing. He's just the convener of the Committee of General Safety. He says, for the safety of the people, I will kill everyone. And ironically, he starts with the Girondinists. Then he says, I don't like your face, kill. You're not wearing the shirt in the right way, killed. Anybody who disagreed with Robespierre was killed. Robespierre even killed the member of the Committee of Public Safety who disagreed with him. He started to kill philosophers. Diderot was killed. Diderot was killed. Then a very important female activist, Olympe de Gouges, she was brought in, killed. Left, right, and center used to sit and watch people getting guillotined. This is called the Reign of Terror. Properly, the French Revolution has been derailed. Now people can see that Robespierre has lost his mind. He will even go to the extent of introducing a new calendar. But one good thing which he did was that he took away all the property which the church had. He de-Christianized France. All church property was seized. All church-run schools were seized. He was saying, I'm doing what Voltaire said. And Voltaire was running away from France thinking that he will cut him also. The point was, he said, de-Christianize France. He will introduce a new constitution, a new calendar. If you ever studied French language, they have their own calendar. This was not a standard thing. This was introduced by Robespierre, which is, he changed the words. He said, I don't like September, October, November. He said, Verdemer, Brumaire. I want French words. So, Nivos, Frorel. And in the fateful month of Thermidor, which is nothing but July, सुनने में अच्छा लगता है, Thermidor. In what happens is that by 1794, people did realize that Robespierre was losing his mind. And in 1794, what is going to happen is there will be what we will call as the Thermidorian reaction. Nothing but July reaction, in which Robespierre will be arrested and he will also be killed. He'll also be guillotined. So by 1794, he is also dead. He said enough. He was basically arrested, and the Girondinists said it. Girondinists, basically the people who thought that Robespierre was a good man. The Jacobians stirred against Robespierre. Now what happens is that the Girondinists somehow, as a secret society, remained, found a way, and now Robespierre is picked up and very simply killed. Who is the leader now? Nobody. It's just called the Thermidorian reaction. And no, I don't care also. Now, after all of this drama, tell me what the French will do. After all this drama, what will they do? Their favorite activity. Very good. They will write another constitution. It's called the 1795 constitution. It's still not over. It's reaching its peak, but it's still not over. They will write now another constitution, which is called the 1795 constitution. And this is called Directory Rule. It's called Directory Rule. The Jacobians have now been outlawed. The party has been outlawed. Now in the Directory Rule, what happens is, they said the problem is that one man has power is not a good thing. So that let's do one thing. 5 directors will be the executives and 2 legislative houses we will have. What is called bicameralism, which India also has, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. I will tell you what the names you have to remember. Till this point, only 4 dates I have. 89, 91, 93, 95. All are 2 years. Plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2. I will tell you the Grishma, don't worry about the way to go about it. So don't worry. I know what to do. You just enjoy the story because it's still not over. Now, 2 legislative houses are there. 5 directors. Achha, one thing we forgot. War is happening in the background. वो भी चल रहा है. That has not stopped. 1792, they started a war that is still happening in the background. Now Britain has joined, Austria, Prussia, Holy Roman Empire, everybody is joined. They're having their war in the background, and all of this is happening in France. So it's not a joke that basically their economy is still not out of a crisis. Now, what happens is that in 1797, there's an election which happens. Finally, an election happens. And what the directors see, that the Jacobians are again coming back. And what the 5 directors do is they annul the election, which is that they say that the elections are wrong because Jacobians were now becoming directors, thinking that they will act like Robespierre. They annul the election. But by 1798, it turns out that the directors themselves were planning for a coup, or rather planning for a takeover, which is that let's do one thing, let's capture power. What is 5? Let's be 2 buddies, will rule France itself. So 2 directors were conspiring to capture power itself. And in all of this, in 1799, 98, 99, an army general who had been fighting since 1792, named Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon Bonaparte will come to France and see this drama. Directors trying to capture power, Thermidorian reaction, reign of terror. And as soon as he gets to know that the directors are trying to capture power, in 1799, there will be a military coup by Napoleon. And in 1799, he will capture power and write another constitution, which is called Consulate Rule, in which there would be 3 council, which is matter 3 executives, and 3 legislative houses. He was first council himself, and now Napoleon will start to stabilize France between 1799 to 1804. Napoleon, who has been projected mostly as a villain because British wrote the history, in in what we call as French history, Napoleon is actually a savior. People had got so frustrated by the French Revolution by 1788, 1797. What French Revolution? Only French Revolution, writing constitution, doing nothing. The economy still is in tatters. So people said that bring a person who can stabilize France. And that is why nobody opposed Napoleon. Because Napoleon is one thing, which is a good administrator. And he knew what to do to stabilize France. But before I go into Napoleonic era, which is 1799 onwards, I want to consolidate the basic timeline with you and then talk about Napoleon. But in a way, the French Revolution story is done. This is the French Revolution for you, the most celebrated revolution in the world, but the worst when it came to implementation. So very simply, let's do one thing. Let's consolidate. If you can remember for me this slide, constitution writing has not ended. They will write 3 more constitutions. Don't worry. That's a separate context itself. You just have to remember for me the following slide. If you can do that, we are done. I will then read the whole story out of the PPT and then we'll talk about Napoleon. Okay. 1789, 1791, 1793, 1795, 1799, 1804, 1792, 1802. Now, this is basically the gist of whatever we've done till this point. French Revolution begins. Body is National Assembly. This is first constitution. Constitutional monarchy. And the name of the body here is Legislative Assembly. Then Revolutionary War begins, which will basically go on till 1802, when Napoleon will in the end end it. For 10 years they will fight a war. In between all of this, rise of Jacobians, and in 1793 we will have a second constitution, which is Republic Constitution, and now the body is called National Convention. And by 1794 they have gone into what is called the Reign of Terror of Robespierre. This is Thermidorian reaction. And now our favorite part, third constitution, which is directory rule. Thereafter, 1797, directors now try to capture power. Coup of Napoleon, consulate rule, and Revolutionary War ends in 1802. Can you remember this basic flowchart? If you've done Modern India with me, you would know that I worked through these. This is your basic gist. A lot of you ask me, what are the dates which you need to remember? What are the names which you need to remember? This is what you need to remember. I'll give you a very simple trick. See, 1789, 91, 93, 95. 2, 2, 2. Then 499. And you remember the dates. 2, 2, 2, 2, 4. And you will remember the dates. Start with 89 and then do it like this. Right? Consulate rule is also a constitution. Napoleon's constitution. Napoleon's constitution. So they've written 3 constitutions. This is the 4th constitution. 4th constitution. Napoleon was a military general, yes. Sure, you can add, sure, you can do that also. But it's not that important, but sure, why not? 97, 99. Right? After Reign of Terror, directors come to power. They try to control France. They try to capture power. Napoleon evades that by capturing power himself. I will now read the PPT out. Now, wherever there will be gaps, it should be filled by the process of reading the PPT. But I will not read the PPT as you don't know the story. So I'll just basically read the PPT out, and thereafter of Robespierre, I will basically now just repeat the story. This is our 3rd revision, and then I'll talk about Napoleon. Done? How many wars happened in Europe? Rahul, keep the count. I'll ask you this question in the last class. This is not the first of it. There's multiple more. Yes? Now, just revise with me. Obviously, I'm not explaining any of it. Just revise with me. I will read the PPT out to you. And now any form of gap will be filled. People who want more details, that is also there. So that is all dates are there. But this is your basic summary of the French Revolution. If you can manage this, your work is done. Nobody is asking you a question. But for insurance policy, remembering this is not too hard. It's anything easier than you've done till this point. Okay. Now let's do one thing. Let's go back and read everything. So the Assembly of Notables is called in 1787. Calonne will convoke it, and that will be having representatives of the 3 estates. He proposed systemic reforms in administration. The Assembly of Notables basically opposed it. Calonne was sacked. 3rd revision with you, pay attention. Brigney will then say that let's call the Estate General. Representatives of the 3 estates will come through. Feuds, debates, and discussions will start to begin in 3rd estate. And on June of 17, they will pass what is called the National Assembly Resolution, even before they had met for the tennis court oath, which is going to come here. Whilst this was happening, there's a pamphlet which was, in a way, what we call as circulated in France by a person called Emmanuel Joseph Saiz. Don't have to remember his name. And it was called What is the Third Estate? This was to mobilize the people. It very simply said, what is the third estate? Everything, obviously. What is it been until this point as a political order? Nothing. What does it ask? To be something. So it was a reasonable concept. The National Assembly met in the tennis court, where they took an oath that the National Assembly couldn't be dissolved until they framed themselves a new written constitution. Later, priests and nobles will start to join, realizing the importance, and the Estate General will then be replaced by National Assembly. Whilst all of this was happening, food shortages and inflation remain. Necker was reinstated and sacked again. In between, he was brought in. People will start to riot in the streets. And on 14 July 1789, commoners will storm the Bastille, a major prison fortress and royal armory. On 14 July, they declare it as Bastille Day or the National Day. The tricolor of France, which is the French flag till today, was waved for the first time on 14 July 1789. A new municipal government was produced, which is called the Paris Commune, which was going to take care of Paris itself. And Lafayette, a noble, is going to now become the commander of the militia which this commune had, which is called the National Guard, which still today exists. Thereafter, things will start to go south very quickly. Between the July and August period, there is what is called the Great Fear. Lack of grains, increased prices, rumors started to spread around, peasant attacks the manors and the estates. And in the August decree of 1789, in the night of 4th August 1789, the National Assembly, in order to quench the people's thirst, will abolish the feudal system that will calm down the masses, abolish the ancient regime, tithe, which is a tax collected by the church, old judicial system, administrative offices. And on 26th August 1789, they will produce the mother of all constitutions, which will be written in consonance with Thomas Jefferson by Sayce and Lafayette, which is called the Declaration of Man of Right and Citizen, which we already have read. Now, this will be the preamble for the Constitution of 1791. Even before that, the church's control over the people was getting abolished. Tithe was abolished. Church property was nationalized. The church now needed to get elected clergy. The people will elect their church official. The anti-clerical attitude even led to a civil war type situation. But Louis XVI, in all of this, immediately sanctioned the decree because he did not want to lose his life, which he will later. Now, in the 1791 Constitution, the Declaration of Right of Man and Citizen was a preamble of the Constitution. Constitutional monarchy was born. A sovereign body was born, which is Legislative Assembly. King had suspensive veto. There was separation of power. No war and peace could be done without the approval of the Legislative Assembly. Judges would be now elected by the people. However, Louis XVI tried to flee, thinking that there was growing violence and he could be killed. Now, he will try to escape to Austria, will be captured. There will be in the Legislative Assembly two offices or two different factions which will start to develop. The Constitutionalists, the Girondinists, and the Republicans, which are the Jacobians. Jacobians still wanted more change. They wanted more political clubs to talk about the change which was coming through. Riots are still happening in the streets. And very simply, the Jacobians are now the new force of change. Now, the radical Republicans who wanted to go for the Republican concept are called the Jacobians. They are led by Robespierre. They consist of the deputies, thinkers, progressive members, people who come from very lower strata who still wanted change. They sat on the left of the Legislative Assembly. That is why they're called the leftists. And the Jacobians is a political party. They are also called the sans-culottes because they did not used to wear the pins which the big aristocracy or the nobles used to wear. Sans-culottes without pins. Thereafter, the Jacobian club was formed. This was basically the lesser prosperous people of the society coming together under the leadership of Robespierre. They wanted more change. They believed that constitutional monarchy is not enough. Thereafter, there will be rising tensions in between. The King of Prussia will start to mobilize his forces. Rulers of neighboring countries were worried about the developments in France. National Assembly will now veto in 1792 a war against Prussia and Austria. Thousands of volunteers will go and join the army. And now the war against the people and aristocracy was now spreading across the European sector. Now, what was the implication? Again, more economic difficulties, a loss of life. Further, men were now fighting the war. Women were now left to cope with the problems in France itself. 1791 only benefited the richer section, and the people still wanted change. That will come when the storming of Tuileries is going to happen. The Jordanists in all the story are moderates, wanted constitutional monarchy, sat on the right. That is why they call the rightists. Now, on 10th August 1792, the storming of the Tuileries is going to happen. armed revolutionaries of the sans-culottes stormed the palace of Tuileries, taking the royal family captive and making them fall. And very simply, this led to the fall of Girondinists. Monarchy was suspended, National Convention was established. What follows is a genocidal violence in Paris. Jacobians will win the National Convention. On 21st September 1792, the monarchy will be abolished and France will become a republic. The constitution will only come in effect by 1793. The National Convention will find links between Austria and Louis XVI. King will be convicted of high treason and will be guillotined on 21st January 1793. Things should have become better, but they will go for the worse because now we will go into the period of reign of terror. Counter-revolutionary forces were still there. Economic liberalization was needed. However, the extreme left, the mountains, the Montagnards as they're called, don't have to remember the names, they will sidestep the implementation of the constitution and implement the terror. Committee of Public Safety, General Safety will now start to prosecute people who had any link with the king. The committee will become the supreme institution, which will basically act like the police. Innumerable people will be going into the prison. Innumerable will pushed into tribunals. And very simply, in the revolutionary tribunals, multiple were killed, multiple were guillotined, having any link with the king itself. Thereafter, the only good thing which he did, new constitution, and the revolutionary symbols were now adopted. The female, the liberty, the republic, the different symbols had become important. De-Christianization of France was complete. Now, against this totally chaotic reign of terror, there will be a reaction in which the Girondinists will capture power again in July of 1794, which is called the Thermidorian reaction, and in which Robespierre will be arrested, he will be guillotined, Jacobean Khan will be banned. Now, why the reaction? Because Robespierre had fully derailed the revolution itself. People, philosophers, Olympe de Gouges, women rights activists, Condorcet, and Diderot all were prosecuted. He even killed Danton, which was his deputy in the Committee of Public Safety. Then they will write their new constitution, Constitution 1795. Thermidorian reaction led to the Thermidorian National Convention passing a new constitution, conservative constitution, bicameral, 5 directors. Now, in 1797, elections will be held. Jacobians will come back to power. 3 members of the Directory were actually very scared that 2 of the members were Jacobians. They will annul the elections. There will be a new plot which will be very simply in disguise or in the making from 1797 to 99. Says the director and Terland will now try to overthrow the Directory itself. But in 1799, Napoleon Bonaparte will overthrow the constitution, overthrow the Directory, and very simply introduce Napoleonic rule. These are the 4 phases through which we've gone through: National Assembly, Legislative Assembly, National Convention, Directory. This is the Katha and Kahani of France, and now we've done it 3 times. Done. Why Maximin is anti-Christian? It's just that the church was seen as a problematic aspect of the state itself. Clear, everybody? Come on. If you've not said yes till this point, you say yes now. Okay. Right. See, I'll give you a break only after this Napoleonic thing is over. I'll give you a break at what? As always, I'll give you around 6:50. Don't worry. The story now is very straightforward, not very difficult. Directory rule, 2 people were conspiring from within the Directory itself. Yes. Who invited Napoleon? Napoleon was uninvited. He came himself. Okay. Now, see, now let's talk about Napoleon. And this is the last thing I have a discussion with you. Then this whole section is over. Now, I hope that you realize that when I say that nobody can ask a question out of the course, it's not a joke. It is a very long story, and writing it in 250 words will not do justice to it. And UPSC is not dumb asking you questions which are easy also, because what will you do? You will write constitution after constitution, easy question. Now, when we talk about Napoleon, Napoleon is a no-nonsense person. He is, when he saw France, or when he reached France, it was in a despicable position. Proper high inflation, currency depreciation, fiscal condition deteriorating, government is corrupt. And now the bourgeoisie, which is the middle class, wanted stability more than revolution. Basically, revolution in the name of revolution, everything was basically going out of hand itself. Directory rule is controlled by Girondinists, not Jacobians. Jacobians were the problem between 1794 to 95. Okay. Now, the point is, who is Napoleon? Napoleon, born in a very small island called Corsica. Corsica is the island of Italy, but later was conquered by France. Went to French military college, then got an opportunity to fight in the Revolutionary War. But he was very good as a general. He defeated Italy and, in a way, Italian states and Austria. He was very true to the revolution, freedom, liberty. But be it whatever, leftist or rightist, he was neither. He knew how to manage law and order. He knew how to manage law and order. And when it came to the revolution itself, initially, he made sure that the ancient regime was gone. He tried to make sure that his homeland, which is Corsica, got better rights. He used it to get promotions. He was initially a Jacobian, but later, when he saw that the reign of terror is happening, he tried to control Robespierre. Simple, straightforward point. He was seen as a solution. He was seen as a solution. So now, when he captured power in 1799, people were hopeful that he will bring sanity to France. And he did. He did. What he did was that he introduced a whole sweeping set of reforms. Economically, to just give you a gist, he made sure that French products were now being sold. He tried to revive the colonies which France controlled at this point of time. He also extended loans to people so that they could actually rebuild France. A Bank of France was finally established. Further, he went for what are called Napoleonic codes. If you are an optional student, you would need to know more. But for a GS student, Napoleonic codes are basically 4 to 5 set of codes, which brought in criminal justice, criminal procedure, civil justice, civil procedure, and commercial processes very streamlined. And wherever he went, he brought in the codes to very simply streamline the administrative structure. Further, France is a religious country, so he needed to manage the Pope also. And with the Pope, he went through an agreement which is called the Concordat. The Concordat, Napoleon gave a concession to the Pope, and he took a lot of things. He said that I will accept Christianity as the state religion of France, and I will protect you, sure, but you will not ask for any of the lands which were taken by Robespierre. All nationalized land will be nationalized only. Anybody you appoint, you have to ask me first, and you will not play any role in education. Napoleon is also known to go for educational reform. He brought in new professors. He revived École de Normale, which is one of the biggest institutions, economic, what we call as educational institution in Paris. University of Paris was established. People were given loans so that students could study. So he did stabilize. In 1802, he did the biggest thing, which is that he said, we have been fighting for 10 years. There's no point. Let's take a truce. He stopped the Revolutionary War also. So he did something which should have been done in 1792 itself, but it took them 10 years to figure it out. So as much as you can ridicule Napoleon, as much as the British could ridicule Napoleon, as much as people tend to talk about Napoleon in what we call as negative light, seen as one of the villains of history. For France, he wasn't a villain. He was the one who somehow was able to stabilize France. Anybody has any issue in this basic story? I'll read the PPTs out later. I want to tell you the story of Napoleon. Straightforward. Man who did something for France. But now Napoleon was not doing this for anyone. He was doing it for himself. Because in 1804, he will say that now France is stabilized, but I want to spread the message of the French Revolution further. He will say, I am consul for life. So he will proclaim himself as emperor. Napoleon will dissolve the constitution he himself created. And now he will say, let's do one thing. I want to conquer Europe and then give them the pill of French Revolution. I will open their mouth and forcefully give them the French Revolution. So in the name of the French Revolution, now Napoleon, within 2 years, when people thought that after a decade of fighting, finally peace has come to Europe, he will declare war on Austria, Prussia, Holy Roman Empire, and his biggest and most ardent, or what we call as historical enemy, Britain. So between 1804 by 1806, he was fighting what is called the third coalition, which is Britain, Austria, France, Britain, Austria, Prussia, and Holy Roman Empire versus France. But Napoleon lost one plot. He was able to defeat the Holy Roman Empire very well. He literally dissolved the Holy Roman Empire. Remember this point. I've told you a fact here. Remember it. Napoleon dissolved the Holy Roman Empire. Can you hold on to this information for 30 minutes? Napoleon dissolved the Holy Roman Empire. Perfect. Thank you so much. He also was able to defeat Austria and Prussia. But by 1809, he will turn his attention towards England. And he will introduce what is called the continental system. Napoleon said, as you did in your childhood, which is, if anybody trades with England, I will not trade with you and I will not let you trade with England, which is called the continental blockade. It's called the continental blockade, which is surround the British Isles so that they cannot trade with anyone. But the problem is that England by this point of time is not a joke. England has India, and England by this point of time is an industrial country. England said, tit for tat, we also apply continental system on you. And while French continental system was more or less useless, the English continental system was very, very effective. And now France starts to get suffocated. He is literally able to suffocate France. And now in 1811, Napoleon will do something which will be considered the biggest blunder of his life, which is called 1811-12 Moscow campaign. He will say that, okay, if I cannot get England, I will take Russia. I will take Russia. The only problem was that he forgot that Russia has very, 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 very severe winters, Siberian cold. So he went with 50,000 men trying to conquer Russia. Russia did only one thing, removed all the people from the villages and said, come into Russia more. And the problem is, the more you go into Russia, the more food and clothing shortage France had. And this in turn led to him losing half of his men to cold. And when he returned from the Moscow campaign, extremely weak, in 1812, there will be the Battle of Nations. It's called the Battle of Nations. And Napoleon will be defeated. Napoleon will be defeated in what is called the Battle of Nations, and a treaty will be signed, which is called the Treaty of Leipzig. In the Treaty of Leipzig, because the French people loved Napoleon quite a lot, Napoleon was exiled to a small island called Saint Helena. The French people said that we'll give you a good pension also. Take a pension, stay in Saint Helena. But Napoleon could never accept what had happened. So whilst the Europeans were patting their backs, yes, we defeated Napoleon, yes, we defeated Napoleon. Napoleon will come back to Paris, ask the people to fight with him. And in 1815, he will fight his last battle with the people behind him, which is the Battle of Waterloo. And when he will be defeated at the Battle of Waterloo, he'll not be killed, he'll be exiled to a small island called Elba, where he will later die. And now the very famous Congress of Vienna will be convened. Which is a very, very significant moment in European history, which I will tell you after the break. What does the Congress of Vienna do? Basic story clear? If it is, I'll just read it out from the PPT for you. Can I do that? Okay. So anybody who wants more details, just follow this reading and it will be clear. Napoleon himself oversaw the drafting of the Constitution of 1799, became first consul himself, 3 legislative bodies, restored peace, establishing order and settling peace with neighbors was very, very important. France defeated Austria in 1801 and had made peace with 1802 with England. Peace returned to Europe, only short-lived. His focus was to have good organization, good government, right to equality, remove privileges, and for this he introduced what are called the Napoleonic codes. You don't have to learn the codes, but there were basically 5 codes. Civil code for any dispute which is non-criminal. How would it be done in the courts? Open hearing started, equality before law. However, women's rights were not given. That is a standard thing which was still happening. Penal code, how people should be punished, how criminal procedure should be there, and commercial code to help the people. There's no names for these 3 houses as it is. Thereafter, he will go for educational reforms, remove the church control over public control. Educational classification will be from primary, secondary, technical, university, which we still follow today. Vocational education for people who want to learn things. Paris University will be reconstructed. He will himself appoint a lot of teachers. Scholarships will be given. Promoted art, culture, and sciences. Thereafter, Bank of France will be established in 1800 finally. Public loans will be granted to people. Land will be redistributed. Means of transportation, automation, exhibition of French commodities with the neighbors so that they can buy it, and also revive their colonies which were there. Thereafter, the most important activity was the Concordat, which is with Pope Pius the Seventh, who the name is Pius VII. Pope is the title. Concordat was signed, wherein Catholicism was made into state religion, but Napoleon would now be the one who would dictate everything. No bishop can be appointed without Napoleon's recommendation. Abandoned claims over property. Gregorian calendar, January, February, March calendar is brought back. And now the church was under state supervision. Straightforward, I've told you everything already. Now Napoleon changes his orientation. He will turn into a dictator, take away press freedom. His opponents will be imprisoned. In 1802, he will say, I am consul for life. In 1804, he will now become hereditary emperor of France. And now he wanted to spread the ideas of the revolution through the path of conquest. What will happen is in 1805, he will first defeat, along with the Spanish, the British, but the British will literally take the Battle of Trafalgar, and the British will succeed in making sure that Napoleon now concentrates towards the land. In the Battle of Austerlitz, which is important, the Holy Roman Empire will be dissolved, which is important for us for the next story we do. In 1803, once the war had been declared, all other countries came into a coalition, but France wanted to take revenge from England. Things will start to go south once the continental system will come through. Continental system, European countries should not trade with England. Economic blockade of Britain, but Britain had India, which was too good for the French, and Napoleon and its allies now start to believe that they will get suffocated, and it is not working on towards them. Now, the major, the what we call as mistakes. Moscow campaign 1812. Napoleon will attack in 12. Thereafter, Scotch Earth policy, remove everything, don't fight. Napoleon lost most of his army to hunger and severe winters. Thereafter, the Battle of Nations or the Battle of Leipzig, where Napoleon will be defeated by the joint front of Prussia, Austria, Britain, and Sweden, which will be followed by the Treaty of Fontainebleau. Napoleon will be sent or will removed as emperor, sent as the ruler of Elba, and thereafter he will be given a pension of 20 lakh francs. I reversed it. It was Elba and then St. Helena, not St. Helena and Elba. First to Elba and then to St. Helena. However, he was still not happy. He will take the advantage of this agreement which was there between the different countries in the Congress of Vienna. He will return from Elba, enlist people in his army. At the Battle of Waterloo, he will be finally be defeated and exiled to St. Helena. Why did Napoleon lose? He lost for the very simple, straightforward reason: dictatorial attitude, very ambitious, but had no real friends, repeated and prolonged warfare. The fact that Spain was an ally, then he fought with Spain also. Failure of continental system against Britain, surge of nationalism in the territories which he controlled, which we have to discuss. Russia campaign, weak navy, and most of his relatives were useless. That is why it never came through. With this, we finish this section, and I have to now discuss unification of Germany and Italy with you. But before I do that, what I will do is I will give you two questions. And once I come back, I will discuss what we call as significance. And then we'll talk about unification of Germany for sure today. Now, before I do that, I gave you a timeline. I gave you a timeline. What I'll do is that I'll add to the timeline, and let's see thereafter if anybody has a problem with the basic concept. With the basic concept, I reach till here. I'll add details here also. 1804, Napoleon is emperor, and 1815 is Battle of Waterloo. This is the basic thing which I've discussed with you. In between, what happens doesn't really matter to me. Now, lastly, exile to St. Helena, first to Elba. Now, very simple, very simple. Let me come to the important slide. Then only I give you a break. It's a long theme, but I think I've been able to put it. So we discussed cause, we've discussed course. I have to tell you in point-wise form significance. Long-term cause, immediate cause. Anybody has any issue here? Please tell me right now. Long-term cause, immediate cause. Anybody has any issue in the cause? Nobody? Perfect, great. 1789, 91, 93, 95, 97, 99, 1804, 1815. Now, when I say these dates to you, does it ring a bell? I don't care if you know the basic details. If these dates have a meaning for you, they have a meaning for you. And now, when I say to you, Robespierre, Napoleon, Revolutionary Wars, or the concept of consulate rule, if when I use these big words, it makes sense to you. Course, you only have to have an idea. Do not learn. For that, I've given you the timeline already. Now, When I come back, I talk to you about significance. And basically, in the unification of Germany and both Italy, Napoleon is a very important actor. So, in a way, you are fresh with Napoleon. So, if we all are on the same page with regards to a question, for example, I gave you yesterday, which was causes of the French Revolution. And if I give you a question, for example, even from the course, for example, I give you a question like this, which is the French Revolution was based on very revolutionary ideas. However, the course of the revolution suggests otherwise. Demonstrate. Can you write a 150-word question for this? This question is unrealistic. This question is an unrealistic question. I don't expect this question in the examination. But with the information which I've given to you, can you prove to the examiner that the French are a joke? You literally have to ridicule the French through this question. Can you prove to the examiner that the French had nothing but big fundas and ideas, and when it came to its implementation, they were zero? If you're not able to write this answer, not a problem. But I've given you a certain type of understanding. If we all are on the same page, we can take a break. And when we do come back, we discuss unification of Germany, Italy, and. This is the only module, last module, which is a little bit heavy. After this, I promise to you that the module Industrial Revolution is totally different. No descriptive, no names, no timelines. Very interesting, very straightforward, and very, very logical. So, can we take a break here? Significance, I'm going to tell you when I'm back. I don't want to push too much right now. Okay. Macron doesn't like it. That is not my problem. Okay. So, we'll come back at 7:10 and we will discuss unification of Germany today. Tomorrow, we'll discuss Italy, and most probably, we'll discuss Industrial Revolution. Though I never like to split Industrial Revolution into two, and if I did not have a weekend batch, I would have taken an extra class on Saturday, but I can't do that. I'll find a way to somehow make it in such a sense that it makes sense to you even if I split it, because tomorrow is Friday, right? And what happens is, over the weekend, people have Gajni effect, which is that they will forget where is Italy, where is Germany, what is what, and it's like I start over again. So I mostly avoid splitting things, but that is what we have to do. So what is confusing, Tharun? Karl Marx influence on Jacobians. Karl Marx was not even born when the Jacobians were there. So don't have to figure that out. So there's no connection between Marxism and Jacobianism. How many questions from World History in Mains? Rashida, when you ask this question, I can see your face. You're like, kitne question aayenge? 1, maximum 2. And I'm not asking you to remember everything. So I know that frustration. Why, sir? So much to do one question. It's about understanding it. It will help you in modern India. Trust me. Different events taking place, the assembly constitution mentioned. Yes, Deepshika, you only have to tell them how they never implemented the constitution. Yes. You see the recordings again, you revise. I promise you, it's easy. It's not very difficult, only needs revision. That's it. Okay. So let's take a break. I'll be back at 7:10 and we'll take the story forward. Last major heavy theme is over. Next week, as it is going to be very interesting in the larger context. Okay. It's hard to remember everything in sequence. It is hard to remember constitutions. It is hard to remember articles. It is hard to remember mountains. It is hard to remember forest. It is hard to remember everything. Everything in UPSC is to remember only. The only difference is you have to develop interest. I'm not asking you to do everything. Only 5 to 6 years I'm asking you to remember. So when you're ready to remember articles, and if you're ready to remember names of forests, and if you're ready to remember the names of dams and passes, you will be ready to remember this also. It's just about creating interest. As it is, if you were not a UPSC aspirant, nobody would know that macro rules are useless country. So why not use it as a moment of enlightenment? Sure, right. So I'll be back. I've taken your 1 minute. I'll give it back. I'll give you 2 minutes back. I'm not Napoleon. So I'll see you at 7:12. Where is sir? Sir is here. No audio video. Yeah, I'm here. 4 minutes wasted. Okay, very good. 4 minutes wasted. This is the best one I've ever seen. We caps lock में लिखा हुआ एकदम 4 minutes wasted. Okay. I'll give it a minute. Still people joining in. So what I'll do next time is I'll start exactly at 5. Exactly at 5. So we'll make up for this 4 minutes. And most of you join by 5:56. So we'll make up for it. Don't worry. Sir, what right for that? Please. Good idea. Very good. So the students who are on time, they know what I mean to say this. The people who are on time, they will never feel it. So okay. Hey, Athar, Athar was saying, please tell me who said 4 minutes wasted. What will you do? Leave it. The senti नहीं होने का. Please tell name of who wasted 4 minutes. Agree with you. अच्छा, ठीक है. Okay. So I think French Revolution fever is now down. Let's talk about unification of Germany at least. Okay. Chandravati, history is technical. People think that history is it's not factual. That's a misnomer. That's something, unfortunately, we see it in schools. History is very technical, multiple concepts. When I'll teach you socialism and Marxism, you will understand that more. Okay. Now we're entering module number 3. Before we do that, let's talk about the significance of French Revolution. See, prima facie, French Revolution is nothing but merry-go-round. But that you can't write in the examination. So what you need to do is that you have to tell them the importance, at least. Why is the French Revolution so important? The first would be that it challenged the ancient discriminatory social and political structure of France, and therefore it was basically an attack on absolutist monarchs. So somebody had the guts to question monarchy. Second is very simply, as a lot of you have already written, the French Revolution produced documents and ideas which resonate till today. The ideas of fraternity, freedom, liberty, republic, and the what we call as Declaration of Right of Man and Citizen is the mother of all constitutions. What do I mean by mother of all constitutions? Foundational concepts of democracy are basically given inside the Declaration of Right of Man and Citizen. Now, third would be political nationalism. Political nationalism, which is that for the first time, people fought for change and a nation with certain values. So, in our recipe of nationalisms, if nationalism was a packet of chips, we've already tasted economic nationalism. But now we get a taste of political nationalism, that people were ready to fight, sacrifice, and were even ready to, in a way, die for the nation and its values. This is called political nationalism. These are the three basic significances of the French Revolution. Should be enough to write any answer. But when I talk about unification of Germany and Italy, unification of Germany and Italy is the third flavor of nationalism which we have to discuss, which is cultural nationalism. Before I do that, I need to complete the story of France. And there are 2 to 3 basic points. Decline of feudal system, standard, that's not an issue. See, you want to substantiate this point and write about decline of feudalistic model. Feudalistic, it's not a feudalistic model, it's a feudalistic society which declines. Any point will resonate out of these 3 points only. But now, in order to explain unification of Germany and Italy with you, I need to introduce 2 concepts with you. I will use the word Napoleon III, which I need to explain what it means. And I will also use a word called Revolution of 1848. And the third thing which I will use to explain unification of Germany and Italy to you is called Metternich order or Metternich system. So if our French fever is over, I would now want to go to the land of the Germans, Deutschland, and let's discuss what is the concept of the unification of Germany and Italy. Can we do that? I will first create context and then we'll talk about that. See, Sridevi, the question is French Revolution was based on very revolutionary ideas. However, the course suggests otherwise. Means that you have to explain that the ideas were big, republic, constitutional, democratic, but when it came to the on the ground reality, none of the events actually proved to be democratic. So from the non-implementation of 1791, 93, 95, 99, from the reign of terror, the actions of the revolution do not resonate the same as the ideals. That is the question you have to answer, though you don't need to expect this type of question. But that is the point. You have to show how every point was contrary. How every point was contrary to each other. So we could have easily written significance, successful revolution. But can I write in the significance, successful democratic revolution? Can I write that? No. That's the basic point. Perfect. Now let's go back to France. The story remains not fully completed. What is the word for the French society produced documents and ideas which resonate? Resonate means which is still relevant today. Resonate. Okay. Now, yes, Ragini, very good. Perfect. Now, let's go back to France. Because one of the actors in my story called the unification of Germany, Italy is going to come from here only. 1793, 1795, 1799, thereafter 1804, 1814, and 1848, 1852, 1870. These are the dates. Now, very simply, these above ones are very straightforward to you. This is French Revolution. This is first constitution. This is second constitution. This is third constitution. This is fourth constitution. Constitutional monarchy, republic, directory, consulate. Then we are also very clear about this, which is Napoleon as emperor, and this is Napoleon's defeat. Now understand this point. When Napoleon is defeated, he will be replaced by one of the brothers of Louis the 18th, in what is called the Bourbon restoration. Bourbon restoration. Basically, Louis come out of the Bourbon family, not the biscuit Bourbon, but the Bourbon family, after which the biscuit is named. So Bourbon dynasty is out of which these Louis come out of. Where did 17th go? He died in this whole process of change. I don't care. He's not my uncle, and I really don't care. But he died in the process of all this constitution after constitution after constitution. So the Bourbon restoration, Louis the 18th will come back, and France will come back to square one. France is a monarchy. So France comes back to square one. They started with monarchy, they come back to monarchy, because here Austria, England, and Prussia will install the monarchy back, because in a way the monarchy is one. Austria won, England won, Prussia won, so they install Bourbon restoration, which is Louis the 18th coming back. So as I said, French Revolution is a futile attempt, because they come back to the same point where they started. So they fought in 1789 because they were a monarchy, and they come back to monarchy. Bourbon is the family. Mughal dynasty, Bourbon dynasty. Now between 1815 and 1848, Louis, they now again start to frustrate the people. This is reinstallation. That's well restoration. They again start to frustrate the people. And across Europe, the period between 1815 to 1848, monarchies become powerful. And now people again start to become frustrated, monarchical, but the ideas of French Revolution are still spreading across Europe. So in 1848, a very interesting moment happens, which is called the Revolution of 1848. And in this, it's a very ominous line that when France sneezes, Europe catches a cold. This exact line is for the Revolution of 1848. In the revolution of 1848, across Europe, again France rises against the Bourbons and they say, no, we don't want monarchical control. We don't want monarchical control. And once it will start in France, it will spread across Austria, Prussia, and the other sectors. However, it was not very successful anywhere else because there will be 17 to 18 revolutions which will happen across Europe. That is why Revolution 1848 is also called the springtime of revolutions. Everywhere where you go, you have a revolution. But for the point is, monarchies were very powerful. However, in France, what happens is a new constitution is written, obviously, Second Republic Constitution, and France again becomes a republic. They remove the Bourbons, but now they were looking for a president. Napoleon is dead. So Napoleon's nephew was alive. Name Louis Napoleon. His uncle is Napoleon Bonaparte. He is made the president. But under this constitution, there's a clause. The clause is that a president can only be there for 4 years. The president can only have a fixed 4-year term. Good clause. But when it came to 1852, when Louis Napoleon was obviously going to be removed because 4 years were over, like uncle, like nephew, he said, who likes this constitution and all? What I will do is, Louis Napoleon proclaims himself as emperor, taking the title Napoleon the Third, and now again dictatorship. Somehow the French can't catch a break. Now between 1852 and 1870, Napoleon III rules, and finally in 1870, Napoleon III dies, and France becomes the Third Republic, again a democratic republic, which it will remain, thankfully for us, for a very long time, till the surrender to Hitler. So this is basically the story of France. Basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 constitutions. And only in 1870 that there is peaceful democratic Third Republic. First Republic is here. Then Second Republic is here. Third Republic is here. Now you will ask me, sir, why are you telling us this story? Because now when I say the word Napoleon the Third, it should make sense. Who is Napoleon the Third? 1848, they become a republic. 4-year term for a president. Louis Napoleon becomes president. As soon as 4 years are done, he captures power and becomes Napoleon the Third. Napoleon II, I don't care. Now, Third Republic, Democratic Republic. What I am more concerned about is this period. So, if I say Napoleon III, does anybody has any issue? Napoleon III, nothing more needs to be known from here. When I say Napoleon III, anybody have any issue? No issue. Now, Revolution of 1848, springtime of revolutions, not very successful. France also, it later in turn meant that the emperor was back. So 1848 revolution and Napoleon III, if I use these two words, Nobody is going to say what revolution, which revolution, this revolution, that revolution. No issue. Two words I am going to use in this story. So I want clarity from you. First is revolution of 1848 and second is going to be Napoleon III. I am creating the what we call as context for unification of Germany and Italy. 1848 is the springtime of revolutions. People get very, very frustrated by rising power of monarchies. What happened during the French Revolution? Exactly, it will happen across Europe. Springtime of revolutions, multiple revolutions, none of them were successful. Sign. I have everybody's consent to move forward because I want to discuss Metternich with you now. Okay. Now, when Napoleon was defeated at Waterloo, he was sent to St. Helena. And in 1815, a very important congress met at Vienna, which is in Austria, in the Austrian Empire. Vienna is the capital of the Austrian Empire. It's called the Congress of Vienna. Here, the victor powers, England, Prussia, Austria, all came together. And they now needed to basically discuss the question, what to do of Europe after Napoleon. What to do of Europe after Napoleon. The first thing which they do is the Congress of Vienna says, restore France's boundaries to 1792, meaning where the original boundary was in 1792, restore it back to 1792, which is the original boundary, so that France is back to its original form. But then these countries also form a new organization, and the name of this organization is Concert of Europe. Concert of Europe. Concert of Europe is like, it's like the UN, it's like a pan-European body. And it is headed by a person called an Austrian chancellor. Chancellor means official. And his name was Metternich, written like this also, Metternich. Metternich is a person. Don't ask me what is Metternich, ask me who is Metternich. So, Metternich is a chancellor, official, Austrian official. Now, Metternich has three very important mandates. So, you have the UN Charter today, that the UN has this charter, sustainable development goal, this, that, don't do nothing, do drama. Same way, the Metternich has been given three major mandates. First is protect the monarchies of Europe. So basically, this body is a conservative body. Its main task is, Metternich is a person, not a post, not a wall, not a car, person. Metternich, name is Metternich, nice name. Now, protect the monarchies of Europe. Therefore, this is a conservative body, that you protect the monarchies of Europe. Thereafter, prevent another French Revolution. Prevent another French Revolution. And third most important, reduce and control nationalism across Europe. Nationalism across Europe. And between 1815 and 1848, Metternich controlled Europe. Now, does it make sense why in 1848 there will be a revolution? Because Metternich will try to push nationalism down. He will try to prevent a nationalistic French Revolution. The more you push it down, the more it will come out. And this 1815 to 1848, Metternich will push it down, and there will be a burst in 1848, which is the revolution of 1848. So you muzzle nationalism, it will come out. Very good. So now I have created the context, the bhumika of unification of Germany and Italy. Napoleon III, Metternich order, and revolution of 1848. If these three things are clear, then I would like to tell you the story of the unification of Germany and Italy. Yes? Okay, clear. Perfect. Great. Everybody saying clear. I have the get go to move forward. Okay, perfect. Now, first things first. Why are we doing it? Why did I choose it? Who said to do world history? The question is, why am I doing it? What is the question which is going to come from this area? Nobody is going to ask you the story. They will only ask you two things. From Germany, what was the role of Napoleon? What was the role of a person which you already know? Otto von Bismarck. But as one of you very ominously said, if only Bismarck will be asked, why are we doing the story? Without knowing the story, you will not appreciate Bismarck. So two questions. What was the role of Napoleon in unification of Germany? And what was the role of Bismarck in unification of Germany? Two basic questions. Right? Okay. Now I'm moving into unification of Germany. Italy will not do today as it is. Now the question is, why wasn't Germany already a country? Good question. I think good question. But why do I need to do the redrawal of boundaries? And why do I need to understand that Germany got unified? Germany got unified. Relevant question? Yes, very good. Now the answer to this question is, there are natural issues that prevent unification of German speaking areas of Europe. Natural issues meaning very standard issues. See, the first issue is very straightforward. They are not part of a German state, but they were part of the Holy Roman Empire. Now, Holy Roman Empire, nothing is holy, nothing is Roman. It's just that because the Pope gave sanction to this king, it's called Holy Roman. That's it. The biggest issue with the Holy Roman Empire is there are 314 small and big political units which together constitute Holy Roman empire. So we all cannot agree on anything. Do you think that 314 units will come together? 314 kings, in a way, will come together to say, yes, we should have one state? Give me a natural answer. This is the natural issue. It is too politically fragmented. It's too politically fragmented. But there is one more issue. There are cultural issues also, which is that if I draw a line like this and I draw a line like this, Germany is divided into east, west, and north, south. North, south, west, east. See, northern part of Germany, is Protestant, and southern part of Germany is Catholic. Obviously, because they are much closer to the papal city of Vatican, so they would be Catholic. And if I go east to west, east is anti-French culture and west is pro-French culture, because France has a border with this area. So north south, it's a religious issue. North south it is religious, and east west it is cultural. So now tell me one thing, will a Catholic and a Protestant come together, or will two culturally different people come together to actually become one state? So the first reason is political fragmentation, second reason is religious, and third is cultural. So one thing is very, very clear, that this area will not come automatically under one country, or they all cannot come under one roof until unless forced. Or there is a certain action which happens there. Now let's start the first part of our story, which is that what happened. I asked you to hold on to one information. Which is in 1806, Napoleon defeated and dissolved the Holy Roman Empire. This is the information I asked you to very simply hold on to. That he was able to defeat Austria, Prussia, but he was able to defeat and dissolve the Holy Roman Empire. Now, as soon as Napoleon does that, he sees these 314 units and says that these are not too efficient to administer. So what Napoleon does is that he reorganizes and simplifies the 314 units into 39 units by force and administrative changes. What is common to these 39 is that they all speak German but are under Napoleon. So, in a way, Napoleon removed the first issue. Napoleon, by means of efficiency and administrative convenience, simplifies and reorganizes. Therefore, political fragmentation removed. Seems logical? Seems logical? Yes. And all speak German, German language. Were they forced to speak German? No, that is their identity. They all speak German. Luther introduced German properly. German is a language which they speak. Now, what he does is that from these 340 units, he now makes them 39 and he renames it as the Confederation of Rhine. Why does he call them the Confederation of Rhine? Why does it call the Confederation of Rhine? Very good. The river Rhine flows through Germany. Very good. Holy Roman Empire was 314 units and Napoleon, in his pursuit to become the ruler of the world, which he already was doing because he was able to defeat Prussia and Austria and the Holy Roman Empire, he has now created what is called the Confederation of Rhine, and it is 39 units. Now, can you understand why do I call Napoleon very important in the unification of Germany? Or can we say that Napoleon played a very important role in the unification of Germany because he did something which could not have been done if he had not conquered Holy Roman Empire? So he creates the foundation called the Confederation of Rhine, which is a simplified version of the 314 units. Somebody could not have brought all of these units together. So rather, he, in his pursuit to administratively have better understanding of this area, he brings it down to 39. Now, can you, in a way, convince 39 kings or rather 314 kings? What is easier? What is easier? 39 kings. You can manage with 39 than 314. Perfect. Very good. Now everybody is following me. Very good. Now 1815, Napoleon is defeated. So would Metternich, who hates French culture, let Confederation of Rhine be there? No. So in 1815, when Metternich order comes through, he reorganizes the Confederation of Rhine into German Confederation. So he very simply expanded the area of Germany a little bit. He did not undo everything which Napoleon had done, just that he renamed it. He renamed it from Holy Roman Empire to Confederation of Rhine. For the people who are thinking what is going on, remember, nobody is asking you this. To German Confederation. He has basically changed the name. But what is more interesting is the administration of this area. The administration of this area. And the concept is, it's called 31 plus 1 plus 1, which is that there are 39 units, 39 plus 1 plus 1. There's one position which is vice president, and there's one position which is president. They will rule this area. See, now Metternich said that there are only two areas which speak German, which is Prussia and Austria. So he forced Prussia to give up the western part to be part of this German Confederation. And Austria also strategically gave up a little bit of its territory to the German Confederation. Now, I'll ask you a very interesting question. Relative to their size, who gave up more territory? Pratyaksh, they are only united by language. Relative to their size, they are Pratyaksh connected by language, nothing more. Nothing else brings them together. This is the process of unification. That is why unity comes through. The answer is Prussia. See, Prussia is this big, but it gave all this much territory and it only has East Prussia here. So Prussia, we all agree, lost more territory. Relative to its size, Prussia lost more territory. Yes or no? Yes. Now, if I have lost more territory, I should be given president's position. Yep. Very good. But Metternich is what? An Austrian or a Prussian? An Austrian. So what happens is, presidentship is given to Austria and vice presidentship is given to Prussia. And now this is the second process and the most important process, which is the rivalry between Austria versus Prussia. That is going to unify the German states. I'm again repeating what is happening. Napoleon laid the foundation by making them 39. Metternich says everybody who has German areas, give it to the German Confederation. Prussia loses everything, more or less, but is then given the secondary position of vice presidentship. And because Metternich comes from Austria, as a chancellor from Austria, he is given, or he is giving president's position, ultimate power, to Austria. Now, naturally, and we understand this very well as Indians, there is now a rivalry between Prussia and Austria because Prussia believes that injustice has been done. Is this rocket science? Is this difficult to understand? Which is two countries who both lost who lost territories, but somehow the country which lost more was given the secondary position in German Confederation. So is Prussia right in a way protesting against this system? Yes. Yes. So now between 1815 and 1848, between 1815 and 1848, Prussia starts to modernize its army and nation, but it now needs to make these 39 states realize that Austria is bad. Prussia needs to demonstrate to the people that, see, Austria is bad. We are your ultimate and rightful political masters in a way. So what Prussia does is that in 1818, they introduce what is called the Zollverein. they introduced something called the Zollverein. Zollverein is nothing but a customs union. You understand EU? Do you understand EU? So EU, European Union, is a customs union, which is that if I pay tax at France, I then don't have to pay anywhere else any tax because I've paid it to the European Union, EU. Zollverein is exactly like this. Zollverein is the concept that Prussia plus 39 states become one economic unit. Because before 1818, there were close to 52 to 62 custom points. So people used to go mad paying taxes at every point. So think of Zollverein like GST, if you want to see it like that. But what is unique here is they are not a political unit, but economic unit. Are you getting my point? Though they are not a political unit, Prussia says one thing: Austria is bad. So I care about you. I care about you. So I am creating a union. Anybody who trades with me, let's all be, including this bad person called excluding this bad person called Austria, let's be a union. See, the basic purpose of Zollverein is to instill a pro-Prussian feeling and show to the people Prussia cares. This is what China is also doing a lot of times in Africa, showing that don't go to the bad Indian. We are here to give you money. Same concept, that you are trying to teach the people how to exclude Austria. So Zollverein is a very big, interesting plan which Prussia introduces. So from Napoleon simplifying to the Metternich order creating a very discriminatory political structure in German Confederation, Prussia is now trying to undercut it. Anybody has any issue here? Austria didn't care because Austria at this point of time is a very big empire. So it said, what will they do by this? Zollverein let them do. Overconfidence. Anybody has any issue here? Does Austria allow Zollverein itself? No. Zollverein excludes Austria straightforward. Recap, very straightforward. Napoleon simplifies. Metternich creates a rivalry between Prussia and Austria. Prussia, in order to undercut Austria's power, introduces Zollverein, which tries to teach the people that there is no Austria, they don't care about you. The people who wrote recap, can I go forward? Because the story becomes even more interesting therefore. Henceforth, it will become even more interesting. Okay. Now, between 1815 1848, Metternich is also doing one more thing, which is that he is suppressing nationalism. And we know that the product of that in Germany, what happened was that a pro-unification writer was shot by a student who was not pro-unification, and Metternich uses it as a way of cleansing the universities. It's called the Karlsbach decree, which I will tell you. Decree was that no university professors can talk about nationalism. The product of all of this will be Revolution of 1848. Yes, when you suppress nationalism, Revolution of 1848 will happen. Prussia had VP position. How was it allowed? Because Metternich, it controls everything. It's like the UN. It gave Prussia the secondary position. Now, Revolution of 1848 happens. It happens in Germany also. And in Germany, the people come together. The people come together at Frankfurt. At Frankfurt. And this is called the Frankfurt Parliament. It's a people's parliament. First democratic attempt to create a nation for Germans. They say that this Austria-Prussia is making no sense. We want to create a German nation and the people take control because it's the revolution of 1848. Now there are two basic proposals in front of them. One is called Kleindeutsch, which is small Germany, little Germany, and the other one is called Grossdeutsch, which is big Germany. Little Germany is one on which they contemplate, and on big Germany they contemplate. Little Germany, very simply, is Prussia plus 39, and this is Austria plus Prussia plus 39. Now tell me, with the Zollverein, what the people would have chosen? Little, very simply, Prussia succeeded in showing between 1815 to 1848 that Austria doesn't care about you. So the people's perception is that Austria is useless. So they go with the plan of little Germany, that let it be Prussia plus 39 states. Beautiful. Little. It seems all logical at this point of time. Prussia had went into a rivalry. They hatched a plan called Zollverein, and Zollverein worked. So for a UPSC aspirant, the story should end here. For a UPSC aspirant, a story should end here. But there's a very comical ending to this story. And the comical ending is the people create the Prussian plan, the Little Germany plan, and they go to the king of Prussia and they say, we want to be constitutional monarchy, and you, the king of Prussia, we want you to be our king. And the Prussian king denies. He says, me, the king of Prussia, I will take power from the people. Itna chota hu main. No. I take power from kings. I don't take power from people. Who are you to give me power? Now everybody in Prussia holds their head like this कि ये किस पागल को बैठा रखा है? Who's the madman who's we have been working since 1818 to instill the feeling of little Germany in everybody, and when the people came to the king said, too big. You are nobody. You are no one. And ironically, this whole plan goes down. He denies the Little Germany concept. The Frankfurt Parliament fails. As I told you, 1848 failed everywhere. In Prussia, people lost it, and in Prussia, there was a revolution. And Prussia became constitutional monarchy. They said, remove power from this madman's hand. He's already lost it. And very simply, the only democratic attempt failed. And everybody is back to their old system, Metternich system. Now, in 1862, in this new Prussia, which is constitutional monarchy, rises a person named Otto von Bismarck. He becomes the Prime Minister of Prussia. And now he says in a very interesting speech, which is called the 1862 budget speech, the blood and iron speech, that one thing is very clear, that Germany cannot be created with democratic ideals. And the testimony for that was what? Germany cannot be created with democratic ideals, cannot be created. The testimony of that was what? The Revolution of 1848. The Frankfurt Parliament proves to us that democracy will never bring Germany. So now he chooses the other one, which is military power and diplomacy is what will create Germany. And now Bismarck, who is considered one of the most competent diplomats, sometimes you will be taught in Indian foreign services also his political and his diplomatic skills. He is considered the single-handed reason or the architect of German unification. Now you get it why I cannot teach Bismarck without telling you the whole story. Just to recap this story for you, we started with Holy Roman Empire. We got Confederation of Rhine. Then we got German Confederation. In this, Prussia now has a rivalry with Austria. They go for Zollverein. At Frankfurt, they meet. That goes under the drain. 1848 revolution is actually a failure. And then in 1862, it is Bismarck who is able to do something about it and actually unify Germany. So if we are clear with regards to why Bismarck is so important and why was Bismarck needed and why the Frankfurt Parliament failed, which is the foolishness of the Prussian king, I would like to discuss the role of Bismarck. And then we end today's class. Bismarck was a Prussian citizen, considered a very important administrator, became the prime minister. He comes from nowhere, but he comes from the ranks of Prussia. He's of no purpose to me. Why we say Prussia, Austria, we refer them remaining parts of countries by giving, no, they're still originally called Prussia and Austrian Empire. Because even though they are part of German Confederation is not a political unit. It is a conglomeration. How was constitutional monarchy established? It was not established by Bismarck. It was established in 1848 when people lost faith in the Prussian king. Why these Europeans are so comical? Well, at least now you find them comical. Why Napoleon thought to defeat Holy Roman Empire? Because he wanted to expand into Europe. Now everybody's questions are done. Can I talk about Bismarck? Come on. Yes, great. Now let's talk about Bismarck. Now, if I had to ask you, who is the or which country is the single-handed obstacle in the unification of Germany? Which is that country? Metternich order is nothing but the order which was established in 1815 by the victor countries to quench nationalism and make sure that monarchies are protected. Austria, because Austria doesn't want this area to go away from its hand. It is the president. So now somehow Bismarck needs to alienate or find a solution for Austria. We all agree that Austria is the problem. Now Austria will become the villain of this century. Now there are three great powers which Bismarck has to, in a way, manage. They are called great powers because they call themselves great. You have England, France, and Russia. You tell me, can Prussia manage a response from either of the three if it attacks Austria to take its territory? See, the biggest point is somehow Bismarck has to get this area. This area he has to get. But for that, he has to fight with Austria. If Russia responds, if England responds, and if France responds, these are very, very big countries vis-a-vis the Prussians. Very, very big countries. They are called the great powers. Now, somehow, Bismarck response means it could be anything. It could be military, it could be diplomatic, it could be anything. Now, somehow, Bismarck needs to find a way that Russia, France, and England doesn't do anything. So now you see how Bismarck plays it. In Russia at this point of time, in the 1860s, the Polish people asked for a nation. There was nationalism. They say that we are Poles, we are not Russians, we want our own country. Now everybody sympathizes with the Polish people, the Poles. Yes, they should have their own country. But Bismarck goes to Tsar. Tsar is nothing but the king. Tsar is the title which is taken. He goes to Tsar. Nicholas I was the one. I'll tell you the name. And he says to Bismarck, and he says to the Tsar, to the Russian Tsar, the Russian king, I have a new army. Must be perfect. New guns. Why don't you use my equipment against the Polish people? Use it. I am ready to lend you all modern equipment we have so that you can quench the Polish rebellion. So the Tsar says, what do you want in return? He says, nothing too much. See, I am going to poke Austria for its territory. I am going to fight Austria. You just stand in the corner saying nothing is happening. Nahin, kuch hua hi nahi. Just look away from the issue. I want your benevolent neutrality. I want your benevolent neutrality. You take whatever equipment you want, you kill the Polish, I don't care. But when I attack Austria, just remain silent. Be blind to this issue. Acha kuch hua? Issue? Okay, Bismarck attacked Austria. Pata hi nahi tha. I didn't know. So Russia, in a way, agreed. First impediment out there. First impediment out there. Now Bismarck goes to France. And there's our big brother, Napoleon III. To Napoleon III, Bismarck goes and says, it pains. Dard hota hai. That it is this Austria, this Metternich, who's taken back your uncle's legacy. I feel it. I feel it. Wouldn't it be good that I take certain territories from Austria and reduce their power? This would be a very befitting reply to how he destroyed everything your uncle created. Napoleon III, as a French, he's dumb as it is. He says, baat to sahi hai. Very good. So he said, okay, so I'm going to attack Austria. Remain silent. And France also agrees. Now he goes to England. And to the English he says, isn't Metternich being too oversmart? कुछ ज़्यादा ही तेवर है. Isn't Austria too powerful? So England says, seems so. So somehow Bismarck convinced the English who were apprehensive of this, and they will literally regret what they will agree to very soon. He convinced the English that a weak Austria was better than a strong Austria, and a German state was in the interest of the English. Agreed? And as soon as England agrees, against all odds, his own parliament said, don't go to war against Austria. Bismarck is going to attack Austria in what is called the very ominous Austrian War of 1866. And in the Battle of Sadova, with its modern army, Austria will be defeated by Prussia, and the first part of the German state will be created. The first part of the German state will be created. This is his larger plan, which he executed. So he got all of this territory together. Not Denmark. He got all of this territory. But there's one area here. It's called Alsace and Lorraine. This is the last point I'm going to make. As soon as England agreed, Austrian War of 1866. Now, this area is called Alsace and Lorraine. Or Alsace and Lorraine is a very fertile territory. If you've seen your world geography, you would know very fertile territory, has a lot of resources. But the problem is that Alsace and Lorraine is controlled by, guess it, is controlled by France. It's controlled by France. Napoleon III. Now the same person to whom Bismarck went and said, it pains that your uncle's legacy is gone. Now he has to fight France. Now basically Bismarck did not want to fight France, but his hand is in a way forced. I'll tell you how. In Spain, the king dies. And as I told you in the beginning, every country has a stake in putting their dynasty as the king. This is the whole concept of Austrian War of Succession and 7 Years' War. Now France says to Bismarck, see, I didn't say anything. Now you will not nominate your king, because Prussia and now Germany is a constitutional monarchy. You will not nominate your king to Spanish throne. To which the Prussians became very angry. And now Bismarck has the backing of his people to fight with France, and against all odds of the world, in what is called the Franco-Prussian Wars of 1870 and 71, and at the very ominous place of Sedan, at the Battle of Sedan, Prussia will defeat France, because French can't win anything generally, and France will thereafter become a republic, and Germany's unification will be complete. This is the story of the unification of Germany. There is something in the slide which I will discuss with you tomorrow, because as it is, I would have to revise with you. But just to give you a small glimpse, the story starts with the dissolution of the Holy Roman Empire. Then comes Napoleon. He simplifies to 39. Then comes Metternich, who basically makes it what we call as the Confederation of Rhine to the German Confederation. And he creates the Austria versus Prussia issue. 1818, Zollverein comes through. And with Zollverein there, when the Frankfurt Parliament is created in 1848, the Little Germany concept wins, but the Prussian king rejects it. And therefore, now Bismarck has to rise in 1862 through his diplomatic maneuvering, manage England and show them that Austria is too powerful, show to the Russians, stay quiet, I'll help you against the Poles, and emotionally blackmail Napoleon III to go for the Austrian War. And once the Austrian War is done, the first phase of unification is done. And then he has to fight France to take Alsace and Lorraine because it's a very important territory. Hand is forced because of Spain, and unification of Germany is done. Done. Made sense. We will revise this on tomorrow, but that is tomorrow. Italy is much less complicated. I'll give you a timeline. I will give you a concept of how to write Bismarck. See, the Bismarck area has been written like an answer itself. Role of Bismarck, strategies, and then international situation, unification. So you don't have to worry about this. But before we leave for today, and you can go for the webinar in that regard, did it make sense? Because students tend to find this area very, very difficult because there are multiple actors. But this is what is world history. If you can sleep over it and watch the video again before we come tomorrow, I would be extremely grateful with regards to that. And what I want from you is very straightforward thing. I will tomorrow read everything out of the PPT as a form of the people who left the session or are going to watch the recording later. So if you're watching the recording later, do remember I'm going to do it tomorrow. It's a very logical concept itself. And then we'll talk about Italy and then go to the Industrial Revolution. Done? This subject is literally beautiful. Perfect. I find it comical and beautiful the same way. It is literally new. Done? Okay. So I will see you tomorrow, same time. And as of right now, you can leave the session. It is comical and complicated at the same point of time, but I hope it is making sense to you. So you can now leave for the webinar. Thank you. Take care. And any questions, write them down. I'll take in the first 5 to 10 minutes tomorrow. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.